Hi there, gents. Today we're going to talk to you about the first type of source analysis question you get at fifth form and pre-Q. But just to recap quickly, in your structured paragraph section, you'll have to do some descriptive paragraphs, which look like that. You'll have to do some explanatory questions, which look like that. You'll have to do an evaluative question or two, which look like that. And then in the source analysis, which is actually section A normally in your exams, the first type of question you get is a comparison question. And the comparison question is worth 10 marks, all right? And we suggest you spend at least 20 minutes on this, and you're writing just under a full page, so two-thirds of a page. And what you'll be asked to do is you'll be asked to compare two sources on the same topic, and you'll need to discuss how the sources are similar in a paragraph, and then also how the sources are different in a paragraph. And then at the end of that, you'll need to make an evaluation as to the extent to which those sources disagree or are in agreement. And to help you to make that decision, you need to think about the contextual background information of the source. So why is it that maybe the sources are agreeing or disagreeing? And then come to an overall judgment to decide on your comparison. So just to summarize, you're looking at least 3 paragraphs, one on similarities, one on differences, and a final one to answer the question how far you think the sources agree or disagree. And so the questions are often phrased along these lines: how far do sources X and Y agree on whatever the topic may be, or to what extent do sources X and Y agree on whatever the topic may be. Now, it's really important that you do actually read the specific question, because if it asks you for a very specific issue that the sources are talking about, and you talk more generally about a wider aspect, you might miss the focus of the question and therefore not do so well. So always remember to answer the question ATQ, as I like to say. In terms of a marking guide, it is out of 10, and you'll note that if you only look at a similarity or a difference, then the max you're going to get is 5 out of 10. So in order to sort of, I suppose, get as close to 10 as possible, you need to ensure that you look at both similarities and differences. And in doing that, if you do it accurately and if you provide evidence to support those similarities and those differences, so direct quotes from the sources, then you can expect to at least get 6 to 9, depending on the accuracy and the detailedness of your evidence. In order for you to get those top marks, your judgment needs to be very well developed. Okay, you need to have looked at both similarities and differences and demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of the source material. In other words, the context they were written in or produced in, which determines why those sources say the things they do. All right. Now, very quickly, to start you off on the process to follow, I've put up a question here. To what extent do sources A and B disagree? To what extent do sources A and B agree on the amount of German resistance encountered during the D-Day landings? So remember, 10 marks, 2 sources to compare. And there's 2 sources there, source A and source B. And what I've done is I've highlighted in green where they agree, and then in red to sort of bring out a disagreement. Now, this is these are quite simple sources and quite a simple question. I must admit they do get more sort of intricate compared to this, but this is a nice point to start at. So a good process to follow is just what I've done there. Have a green and red marker, and then you can highlight on the source where it is that they agree in green, and potentially aspects that each source have that are different, so the things in red. And so these two sources agree that certainly there was some German resistance as the Allies landed, but where they disagree is the degree of resistance. In other words, how much, or the amount of resistance. And you'll find that source B suggests that maybe there wasn't so much resistance, whereas source A suggests that actually there was a lot of resistance from the Germans, which resulted in a lot of casualties. And so the evaluation would be that they mostly disagree on the amount of German resistance. So you can see you've got kind of 3 paragraphs. One would be on the agreement, and you'd have quotes to support the agreement from both sources. Your second paragraph would be the disagreement paragraph, and again, you'd show how the 2 sources disagree using evidence from each source. And then finally, your final paragraph is an evaluation of the degree to which they agree or disagree. And you can bring in context. So, for example, this source B is a journalist in a bomber aircraft. So, if one is in an aircraft, so it might not be able to tell very much what's going on, particularly, but also a journalist might have a particular purpose in what they write, morale boosting effort, for example. So they might gloss over the fact that many soldiers were dying. Okay, and that might be part of the evaluation to explain why they disagree. Where source A is a US Army report aiming, I suppose, for the truth, and published somewhat afterwards, so that they don't particularly need to justify the casualties, so to speak. But that's for the top 9 or 10 out of 10. In the first instance, it's really important that you are looking to firstly make sure there's a paragraph on agreement and a paragraph on disagreement, so you can at least get above 5. Hope that helps.